The day my father called me worthless changed everything. I remember standing in his mahogany-paneled office, the same office where he'd built Morrison Industries from nothing into a Fortune 500 company. The same office where, moments before, he crushed my dreams with a few cruel words. "Nathan, you're worthless to this company and this family," he declared, his voice as cold as the marble floors beneath my feet. "I've wasted years grooming you to take over, but you're nothing but a disappointment." I stood there, my proposal for modernizing our manufacturing division clutched in trembling hands. At 26, I'd spent the last 4 years working my way up through every department, learning the business from the ground up. Unlike my younger brother Marcus, who'd walked straight into an executive position after business school. "Dad, if you just look at the numbers," I started, but he cut me off with a dismissive wave. "The numbers? You want to talk about numbers?" He pulled up the company's latest quarterly report on his screen. "Your department's productivity is down 15%. Your innovative ideas," he sneered at the word, "have cost us millions. Meanwhile, your brother's division is up 30% this quarter alone." Because Marcus is running everything into the ground for short-term gains, I protested. "We need sustainable." "Enough?" His fist slammed against the desk, making his CEO of the Year award rattle. "I'm done watching you destroy what I've built. You're fired. Clear out your office by the end of the day." My mouth went dry. "You're firing me? Your own son?" He leaned back in his leather chair, his expression distant. "As of this moment, I have only one son. Marcus will take over as planned. You're no longer welcome here or at home." The words hit like physical blows. Not just fired, but disowned. 15 years of dedication, of trying to prove myself worthy of the Morrison name, erased in an instant. "You'll regret this," I said quietly, my voice steadier than I felt. He actually laughed, a short, harsh sound that echoed off the office walls. "The only thing I regret is wasting so much time believing you could amount to anything. Now get out." I walked out of that office with nothing but my proposal, my laptop, and a determination burning in my chest. My father had just made the biggest mistake of his life, but he wouldn't realize it for years to come. That night, I checked into a modest hotel with a few $1,000s in my personal account. While my father probably expected me to come crawling back, begging for forgiveness, I had other plans. I opened my laptop and began composing emails to the network of contacts I'd built over the years, suppliers, distributors, rival executives who tried to poach me before. By midnight, I had 3 meetings scheduled for the next day. By dawn, I'd outlined the framework for what would become Phoenix Capital Partners, though I made sure my name appeared nowhere in the official documentation. Instead, a maze of shell companies and trusted proxies would hide my identity as founder and CEO. I knew my father's company inside and out, its strengths, its weaknesses, and most importantly, its vulnerabilities. Marcus might have the title, but he lacked the deep understanding of the business that came from working every position. His successful division was built on cutting corners and deferring maintenance, a strategy that would come back to haunt Morrison Industries in the years ahead. The first year was brutal. I lived in a tiny studio apartment, working 18-hour days to build my company from scratch. Every penny of profit went back into the business. While my family assumed I'd vanish into obscurity, I was meticulously laying the groundwork for my return. Phoenix Capital Partners specialized in turning around struggling manufacturing companies, the same kind of companies Morrison Industries had been steadily pushing toward bankruptcy with their aggressive cost-cutting. We'd buy them at rock-bottom prices, modernize their operations using the same sustainable practices my father had rejected, and turn them into highly profitable enterprises. By year 3, we were managing over $100 million in assets. By year 5, that number had grown to $500 million. I assembled a team of the industry's brightest minds, people who shared my vision for long-term sustainability over short-term profits. We operated in the shadows, our success known only to those who needed to know. I never touched Morrison Industries directly, not yet. Instead, I watched from afar as Marcus's leadership style began showing its cracks. Deferred maintenance led to costly breakdowns. High-pressure sales tactics alienated long-term customers. The stock price remained artificially high through aggressive buybacks, but the foundation was crumbling. My father, now semi-retired and serving as chairman of the board, either didn't see the problems or chose to ignore them. His golden child could do no wrong, even as the company's debt mounted and its market share eroded. I kept tabs on them through industry channels. My mother had apparently taken to drink to cope with my abandonment of the family. Marcus had married some socialite and moved into a mansion that cost more than our annual R&D budget. And my father, he still gave interviews talking about his son carrying on his legacy as if I'd never existed. None of them knew that the quiet, steadily growing force in the manufacturing sector, the company buying up their competitors and transforming them into powerhouses, was run by the son they'd thrown away. None of them suspected that every success of Phoenix Capital Partners was another step in my carefully orchestrated plan. Then came the day I'd been waiting for. 10 years after being thrown out of my father's office, I sat in my own corner office in a downtown high-rise, reviewing the latest report on Morrison Industries. The company was in trouble, serious trouble. Years of Marcus's mismanagement had finally caught up with them. They needed a major capital injection within the next quarter or they faced bankruptcy. I picked up my phone and called my CFO. Sarah, remember that contingency plan we discussed for Morrison Industries? It's time. Set up the meeting. 3 days later, my father and brother sat in our conference room, not knowing they were about to face the son they'd discarded. They thought they were meeting with PG Phoenix, the mysterious CEO of their last hope for salvation. I straightened my tie and checked my reflection in the window. 10 years had changed me. I was leaner, harder, my face weathered by a decade of relentless work. I doubted they'd recognize me immediately. I smiled slightly, thinking of all the times my father had called me worthless. He was about to learn just how wrong he'd been. The moment I stepped into that conference room, time seemed to slow. My father sat at the far end, his once dark hair now completely gray, deep lines etched around his mouth. Marcus slouched beside him, his expensive suit unable to hide the soft paunch he developed. Neither looked up immediately, too busy shuffling through their desperate financial projections. Sarah, my CFO, sat quietly in the corner, barely containing her smile. She was one of the few who knew the full story, and she'd been looking forward to this moment almost as much as I had. "Gentlemen," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. "I'm PG Phoenix." My father's head snapped up, his eyes widening in shock. For a moment, he just stared, his face draining of color as recognition slowly dawned. Marcus took longer. He'd always been slower on the uptake. "Nathan," my father whispered, his voice hoarse. "What? What are you doing here?" I moved to the head of the table, setting down my laptop with deliberate calm. "I'm here to discuss the future of Morrison Industries, though I suppose I should properly introduce myself. I'm the CEO of Phoenix Capital Partners, the company you're desperately hoping will save your failing enterprise." Marcus finally caught up, his face flushing red. "This is ridiculous. Father, we can't possibly deal with him. After he abandoned the family." "Abandoned?" I cut him off with a cold laugh. "Is that the story you've been telling? That I abandoned the family? Not that I was fired and disarmed for daring to suggest sustainable business practices over short-term profits." My father's shock was transforming into anger. If this is some kind of revenge. Revenge? I opened my laptop, pulling up Morrison Industries' financial statements. "No, this is business. Your company is 3 months away from bankruptcy. Your stock has lost 60% of its value in the past year. Your major creditors are calling in their loans. You need an immediate capital injection of at least $300 million just to keep the lights on." I paused, letting that sink in. "Fortunately for you, I'm prepared to make an offer." "We don't need your help," Marcus snarled, but our father silenced him with a sharp gesture. "What's your offer?" he asked, his voice tight with suppressed emotion. I smiled, remembering all the times he dismissed my ideas. "Phoenix Capital Partners will purchase a controlling interest in Morrison Industries for $500 million. This will clear your immediate debt and provide working capital for necessary modernization. In return, we'll assume full operational control." "You want to take over my company?" My father's face reddened. "The company I built from nothing." "The company you're running into the ground," I corrected him. "Your choice is simple. Accept our offer or declare bankruptcy within a quarter. And before you start looking for other options, you should know that we've acquired controlling interests in most of your major suppliers over the past 5 years. No other investor will touch Morrison Industries without our blessing." Marcus jumped to his feet. This is extortion. We'll sue. Sit down, Marcus, our father snapped. He stared at me, and for the first time, I saw something new in his eyes. Respect mixed with fear. You planned this. All of it. For how long? Since the day you called me worthless, I replied calmly. I spent 10 years building an empire larger than anything you could imagine. All while you were praising Marcus for destroying everything you built. Phoenix Capital Partners currently manages over $900 million in assets. We own controlling interests in 27 manufacturing companies across 3 continents, and now we're offering to save Morrison Industries, though perhaps not in a way you'd prefer. My father slumped in his chair, suddenly looking every one of his 68 years. And if we refuse? Then Morrison Industries declares bankruptcy and Phoenix Capital Partners purchases your assets at auction for pennies on the dollar. Either way, the company will be mine. The only question is whether you walk away with something or nothing. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus looked like he might be sick. My father stared at the financial statements on the table, his hands trembling slightly. The board will never approve this, Marcus tried one last time. Sarah spoke up for the first time. The board approved the deal last night. They've been aware of the company's true financial situation for months. They're quite eager to accept Phoenix Capital's offer. My father's head snapped up. Last night, but we just. You just scheduled this meeting, yes, I smiled. But we've been preparing for this moment for a very long time. The paperwork is already drawn up. All we need are your signatures. I nodded to Sarah, who produced a thick folder of documents. She placed them in front of my father, along with an elegant fountain pen, the same brand he'd given Marcus when he made him CEO. My father stared at the papers for a long moment. All these years, he said quietly, I thought you were nothing, that you'd never amount to anything. I couldn't have been more wrong. Sign the papers, Dad, I said, my voice softer than I'd intended. Let me show you what Morrison Industries can become when it's run properly. Slowly, his hand shaking slightly, he picked up the pen. One by one, he signed each marked page, effectively transferring control of his life's work to the son he'd once declared worthless. Marcus stormed out before the signing was complete, but I barely noticed. My eyes were fixed on my father's face as he signed the final page. It's done, he said, setting down the pen. The company is yours. I gathered the signed documents, handing them to Sarah for processing. I'll expect your resignation letter on my desk by tomorrow morning. Marcus's too, though I suspect he's already halfway to his lawyer's office. My father stood, straightening his shoulders with what dignity he had left. And what happens now? Now? I smiled. Now I'm going to turn Morrison Industries into what it always should have been. A company that values sustainable growth over quick profits, innovation over tradition, and merit over bloodline. He nodded slowly. I understand. And what about family? Is there any way to? I cut him off gently. The time for family was 10 years ago. Right now, we're just 2 businessmen concluding a transaction. Maybe someday that will change, but that's not why I'm here. He walked to the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I was wrong about you. You're not worthless. You're everything I should have wanted in a son. I know, I replied simply. Goodbye, Dad. After you left, I stood at the window of my office, looking out over the city. 10 years ago, I'd walked out of my father's office with nothing but a laptop and a dream. Now I own that office, that company, and so much more. Sarah appeared at my side. Congratulations, boss. Was it everything you hoped it would be? I thought about my father's face when he realized who I was, about Marcus's impotent rage, about the years of work that had led to this moment. No, I said finally. It was better. The next morning, I walked into Morrison Industries as its new CEO. The same security guard who'd escorted me out a decade ago nodded respectfully as I passed. The same elevator carried me to the top floor, but this time I wasn't a disappointment seeking approval. I was the most powerful person in the building. I stepped into my father's old office, my office now, and smiled. The CEO of the Year award still sat on the desk, gathering dust. I picked it up, studying my father's name engraved on the base, then dropped it into the trash. Time to build something new. 5 years later, Morrison Industries had transformed into everything I'd once dreamed it could be. Our sustainable manufacturing practices set industry standards. Our employee satisfaction rates were the highest in the sector. Our stock price had tripled. My father occasionally sent emails, trying to rebuild some kind of relationship. Sometimes I answered, sometimes I didn't. Marcus had moved to Florida, where he ran a struggling consulting business. Neither of them had any power over me anymore. I kept the newspaper article that covered my takeover of Morrison Industries framed on my office wall. The headline read, "Phoenix Rises. Unknown Investor Saves Manufacturing Giant." Below it, I added a small note in my own handwriting. Not worthless anymore. Success, I'd learned, wasn't about proving your worth to others. It was about believing in yourself even when no one else did. My father had tried to break me, but instead, he forced me to become something far greater than he could have imagined. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about building something so magnificent that they have to live with the knowledge that they were wrong about you all along. I turned back to my work, smiling slightly. After all, I had an empire to run.